let's, I'll do it on 3, 2, 1, go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Hi everybody, my name's Jaxler, and this is SpongeBob's Truth or Square Any Percent. This game is a 3D platformer that was made by Heavy Iron Studios in 2009. This game has 2 versions. It's on Xbox 360 and Wii. We're going to be doing this run on Xbox 360 today. We're aiming to save about like 3 minutes or so on loads. And then the Wii version also runs in 30 FPS, has terrible motion controls, and it's just, it can crash sometimes too. It's really bad. So for this first level, jellyfishing, I'm going to look to see if these robots are going to line up nicely. My aim is to hit them in groups, in like pairs and groups, so that I use less swings, just to optimize my combat by small margins. Normally I can manipulate where the robots go, depending on how I manipulate SpongeBob's movement. But I spawn in too far away from the robots to influence their movement. So this first fight can be somewhat random. But that wasn't too bad. For these next couple of fights, I'm going to be implementing some manipulations to line them up for easy doubles. So for example, this one's the easiest. All I have to do is walk straight forward, and it brings those 2 robots right together in a nice bundle. And, yep, there we go. And we got another 2 back here. Good. Sometimes the guy in the back can wander off a little bit, but that was pretty good. And I'm going to take a quick shortcut by going on this plank and jumping up to this cliff a little bit faster than normal. Gonna kill this last guy, and I'm going to set up for a trick called Tiki Jump. I'm going to stand on this Gary Tiki, and then normally I have to do this button puzzle, not even puzzle. So, let's see here. Oh, darn it, that was close. Alright. That trick can be kind of obnoxious sometimes, so it's not a big deal. There we go, second try. So, a little bit of the collision on the platform extends past the fence, so we can just jump to it right away. Normally that trick would be trivial, but because there's a horizontal spin move that lets us get a little more horizontal distance. But we don't unlock that till the second level, so a lot of the skips in this level are very difficult as a result of that. So these cogs, it's kind of funny. You actually have to walk with the rotation of it. Otherwise, it's kind of trying to walk, like swim up a lazy river. You lose a lot of momentum. Keep a quick eye on Patrick up here. I'll try to angle the camera. Poof, he's gone. So the developers never intended us to go this fast through the cogs. So instead of like lifting them up into the sky, they just kind of make them poof out of existence, right where we're about to walk to. So coming up for the first big sequence break of the run, there's a bunch of barrels in this level that can be rolled around and manipulated. So I'm going to come up on this barrel right here, knock it over on its side, and I'm going to roll it by this rock. And I can use this rock, barrel as a platform to hit that ledge. That just skipped about 1.5 minutes worth of bad platforming and puzzles. We're going to do another skip here, another similar type skip. This cave is normally like 2 minutes long, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to get another barrel going. And my goal is to get it standing upright, which is easier said than done. So I'm going to roll it up to this wall right here. I'm going to roll it along the wall so it stands up a little bit, and then jump to the platform. So there goes another 2 minutes off casual play. That's a lot harder than it looks, because the barrel physics are terrible in this game. This rail right here has collision, so I'm going to jump around a small invisible piece of collision, and then jump down to the bottom of the slide. That saves having to go around like a pillar and like a corkscrew part of the slide. Okay, this fight is really weird. I'm going to be attempting a setup to manipulate the spawns for the fight, but a lot of being good at this fight is reacting to the spawns that you end up getting, because any little change in your movement can impact the spawns that you get. So that was pretty good. I got a good manipulation there. And this should put a bunch of guys right here. There he is. Okay. Alright, this is a little bit funky. Where are you? Okay. 22 is pretty good. Then I'm gonna not go for another Patrick Hammer power-up because it's just more efficient to kill them with the buff power-up. And that's the end of the level. So at the end of this level, I'm going to be collecting what's called a happiness object. And so what a happiness object is it sort of marks SpongeBob's progress within the game. So you get one at the end of each level, and that takes you to this results screen that ends quits out the level. and you can get 2 more upon revisiting each level. Unfortunately, we don't see that here, but in a couple other categories, such as all happiness objects and 100%, we get to see a little bit more of that. So the big thing to take away from that is collecting that object is what triggers the end of the level. That piece of information will become very important once we get to some of the later levels. Another thing to keep in mind is that this game has, you probably noticed it has trivia in the loading screens, and the trivia is really bad. So I would encourage playing along and get frustrated, as I tend to when I'm trying to figure out what the question even means. This is Kelp Forest, very reset heavy point of the run with this trick that I'm gonna be quiet for while I attempt to go for it. Go into this corner here. Nice, first strike, nice. Okay, so that's called Hammer Boost. When a robot is in its swinging animation, it becomes taller. Its hitbox becomes taller. So if you jump over the right part of the robot while it's doing its hammer swing, it will actually push you over certain pieces of collision. So that lets us skip that fight. And then I did some very specific setups with that fight in order to get some very relatively easy doubles. We have the spin move now, and that lets us do a cool trick called spin boosting. I'm going to lure this robot here, and I'm going to do a jump and spin into him at the same time, and that gives me a just ridiculous amount of vertical height, and that lets me skip the second half of this fight. Quick little trick right here, I'm going to slam against the wall. That actually shortens up the slam animation and lets you start walking a little bit faster. So we're going to go for this buff power up over here, and then we're going to do another spin boost in order to exit this small like platform segment. The big theme of this run is there's going to be something that I don't want to do, and I'm going to try to skip it. So another spin boost, and then we're going to exit this segment through the gate. So what SpongeBob does is it increases your base movement speed, and it doubles the damage of all of your attacks. It also lets you do this short hop spin animation, which is actually a little bit faster than even the base running animation. So I'm going to be doing that whenever I have a flat surface. So take a little safe in here. The other thing is that you can really hold your propeller move. So this just rips through some of the really chunkier enemies in this game. And so I just ripped through that guy who normally has like 4 health in just like less than a half a second. So there's some cool movement to get through here optimally. Some weird ledges there. And then we're going to do what I consider the hardest spin boost of the run. Right here. I need a lot of height in order to get to the switch that skips this segment. So I'm going to lure this guy over. Nice. And then I get under here and jump to the paddle. And that lets me activate like the end part of the puzzle, which lets me just skip it entirely. So going through here pretty well. Pretty good kelp forest so far. Gonna do another animation cancel on this fence. Lets me start walking just a little tad sooner. Coming up ahead is a small gate skip. Only stays a second, but it looks really cool if I get it. Looks like I didn't get it. You gotta have a lot of height in order to hit it. So normally you have to grab that power up to my left in order to get through the flowers safely. But I'm just gonna jump between them, and the game's not really gonna care. The hitboxes on those are absolutely small. So one more spin boost in order to get to that ledge. That was a little close for comfort. And now we're gonna be heading into the mini boss fight of this level. So one of the key things about this run is maintaining your buff power up. Because the minute you get hit, you lose it. And having this power up here allows me to 2-cycle this boss because of the damage output. The other thing is I'm trying to lead him into walls. So, because he's programmed to stop attacking once he hits a wall. Otherwise, he would just keep spinning into a wall forever, and it'd be kind of awkward. So that fight goes really fast with that power up. A quick shout out to the Beatles for inspiring the design of that boss fight. And I'm specifically standing where the happiness object is going to spawn. And hopefully yeah, there we go. The chest will actually push me up towards the object and collect it, the literal frame that I have control over SpongeBob. So that's a small, like, few frame time saver. And that's going to be in the end of Kelp Forest. That was a really good early game, actually. So, to sort of explain what's going on here, this game, like I said, was released for the 10th anniversary of the SpongeBob TV show. I might have actually forgot that. So essentially we're revisiting SpongeBob's memories in these levels. So each of these levels are based off of like previous SpongeBob episodes. So like Karate with Sandy, for example, is from like a numerous amount of episodes. But the interesting thing is that this game was developed around the same time that THQ was going out of business. So they actually reused a lot of assets from previous SpongeBob games by Heavy Iron, such as Battle for Bikini Bottom and the movie game. So like most of the textures, every sound clip, almost every sound clip, music clip, is all lifted from previous Heavy Iron Sponge titles. So let's talk a little bit about Robo Patrick. My main goal is, again, to maintain buff power up for as long as possible, and ideally the whole fight. But for these, there's small waves right here where I'm trying to kill robots as fast as possible. So I'll specifically go to where they're going to spawn so I can kill them as soon as they spawn in. That was a pretty good first phase. This guy has three phases. The Patrick attack phases are mostly the same thing, so not too much to worry about here. So yeah, just gonna... I'm gonna go to this back corner because it's runner preference where you decide to go on this phase, but I like to go to this corner because there's that Hammerbot can snipe you, and he'll just destroy your buff power up, and it's really bad for killing the robots. So those were pretty good robots there, and now we're moving into the last phase of the fight. So not too much going on here, but then after this level is where the run, if it isn't already insane. It's about to get ridiculous, because all of the tech-heavy levels are in mid-game. So, one more hit, and then he's done. So yeah, the reason why we're going through all these memories is so SpongeBob can, like, remember, he lost the piece of paper that has the Krabby Patty formula on it. So he's trying to jog his memory by going through all of his previous memories. So that's kind of what the happiness objects represent. We also get a green hot dog there for some reason, which kind of makes me uncomfortable, so I'm just going to kind of ignore it for now. Alright, now we're moving, real quick, best line in the game. So... Apologies for the noise in the background. So, Mr. Krabs in this game was not actually voiced by his original voice actor. He was voiced by some other dude, and it's really bad. This game's not like a terrible game. It's just, it was very rushed. So unfortunately, they had to make cuts. And that was one place where they had to make a cut, unfortunately. So this is Fried Cook. We get a new power up here called the Cannon Shot. And this is actually a really useful move in the other categories for this game with a few more robot fights, because it has a high rate of fire. It comes out, it has a slow, fast startup, and it's very spammable. Like, you can do it very quickly. So we use that a lot in other categories, but we've already done most of the main combat sequences, so it kind of doesn't matter as much here. So, like I said, a lot of these levels are based on, like, previous SpongeBob episodes. This level is supposed to be, based on, like, the anchovies episode, so, like, the first SpongeBob episode with the anchovies. But, for whatever reason, it takes place outside in Jellyfish Fields, and there's a bunch of car washes everywhere. I don't understand this game in the slightest, but I'm not gonna question it. So... luckily, though, this is a nice little break, because after this, we have a gauntlet of 3 of the hardest tricks in the run. So, this is a nice little break. Alright, so this bus is going to come up to this pier. I'm going to try to jump to it a little earlier. And then I'm going to jump around the side of the pier. This lets me skip a 5-second cutscene. And then I'm going to jump up to this rock. This piece of coral has collision. And I'm going to jump off that, off this propeller, and then to the other propeller. And this lets me bypass an invisible wall and lets me skip like another 1.5-minute puzzle segment. Uh-oh, I got a camera lock. Sometimes that can happen depending on the jump that you get over the invisible wall. There we go. So that's unfortunate. I couldn't really see, but not a big deal. Up next is called Bathtub Skip. This was found by Zuzer about a month ago. Say 7 seconds. I'm gonna go for it because I'm cool. But it's very risky. So let's see what happens here. Nice! First try! Cool. Alright, so I wish I could explain that, but another big trick coming up here. Gonna jump to this section early. And, do that part of the challenge. Oh, I fell. Oh, that's really bad. That was actually something I skipped with Bathtub Skip, is you skip a segment where you have to use that. But doing that, part brings this platform down and lets me reach that lamppost, which lets me bypass another invisible wall. So we've already skipped like the 2 like big puzzle segments of this level. So we completely make a joke out of this game's puzzle segments. We're gonna grab the Squidward power-up here. Squidward's busted. He has a high rate of fire, does a lot of damage, and normally spinner enemies are immune to projectile attacks. But his shots are so fast that it just bypasses the immunity entirely. He is extremely busted in other categories where we have the chance to use him. Oop, got stuck there a little bit. But unfortunately, that's the only place he gets to shine in this category. So those were the 3 really big skips of this run. I also made sure to not shoot down this tiki so I could avoid some quicksand. And then we're gonna come back on go down the last stretch of this segment. So gonna jump off of this Dutchman tiki, and that's gonna let me get to a later part of this track. And then we have another puzzle that's mandatory to spawn in the happiness object. So what I'm going to try to do is ricochet a shot off the side. Unfortunately, I missed it, so I had to take the normal cycle. Oh, I missed that. Oh, that's bad. Come on. That can happen sometimes. So that's unfortunate. Lost a couple seconds there. Almost got the second one. A little early. So you can actually ricochet it off the wrong side of the bumper and bank shot it early, but I didn't get any of those today. That's unfortunate. But yeah, that's the end of Fry Cook. So other than those little things, that went very well. I'm very pleased because I was really nervous about Bathtub Skip. So now we're going to go back into the hub world. We're going to talk to Squidward. We're actually going into a level we call Santa. It's based off the Christmas like the old Christmas special where like the Squidward is basically the Grinch. That episode. But because they were so limited on assets, they actually just put it inside the freezer where the episode of Squidward's First Krabby Patty is, which makes absolutely no sense, but it's kind of hilarious, so I roll with it. This level's insane. I'll be quiet. Just don't blink. Actually, I'll talk. We're getting out of bounds here through some extra pieces of collision. And then I have to navigate around the seam where there's still walkable terrain. And keep in mind, this is all on ice. And I'm going to walk as far as I can to the left. I'm going to come around here. Oh, it's unfortunate I grabbed that. Okay, not a big deal. That's Santa. That's the whole level. So if you remember back to when I was talking about happiness objects, collecting the last level of a happiness object of a level ends the level, right? In order to save on processing power, what they do is they keep all the happiness objects out of bounds and they load them in during the loading screen, because otherwise you get a lag spike when it would spawn in at the end of the level. So if you go out of bounds and collect it, you can just end the level instantly. And that's a totally valid way of doing it. That skip saves about 7 minutes. Very big skip for this run. So we're coming into Marmalade now. If that level wasn't cool, this one will be cool as well. So Gotta mash through more trivia. So I'm gonna instantly turn around by holding up during the cutscene, and then I'm gonna go back to this rock. Gonna jump on top of it. Oh, that sucks. Oh, come on. I'm choking now. There we go. And then I'm gonna jump through that wall, and that's the end of Murmler. So, for whatever reason, they programmed in a trigger behind the door that ends Murmler instantly. So we just go out of bounds, and the level's just done. I believe the IL world record for that level is 10 seconds on IL timing, which is kind of funny. What we're actually going to do, though, is we're going to go into the photo book, which lets us revisit levels. This is how we would get more happiness objects. And we're actually going to go back to Murmler. And the reason why is that normally the developers never intended for us to collect a happiness object more than once. And because well, at least they thought they designed the game in such a way, because they designed it like with that constraint, they programmed game progression in an interesting way. So what happens is, whenever you collect any end-level happiness object, it updates a number in memory that keeps track of how many levels it thinks you've beaten. So, for whatever reason, this also works with the Murmler trigger. So what we can do is repeatedly activate this trigger behind the door in Murmler, and trick the game into incrementing that level counter. So as you'll start to notice, levels are starting to fill up in the storybook. And what appears in the storybook depends on how many levels that you've beaten. So essentially, we trick the game into like completing levels that we're not. So what this will eventually let us do is break the game's progress counter so far that we can talk to Patrick and he'll warp us to the final boss instantly. So this is almost like a quasi-wrong warp, if you will. Which is kind of strange. Oh, come on now. There we go. So I have to do this a total of 6 times or so in order to... I actually have a visual cue to know when I have one more. It's kind of funny. But we're going to continually do this until Patrick lets us go to the final boss. So at this point, since I don't have too much more to explain with this trick, I'm just going to shout out some people. First of all, thank you to the marathon organizers for running such a tight-knit show and for allowing me to participate. Very big deal for me personally, so I really appreciate it. As far as community members go, I'd like to thank Cole. He has been instrumental in making this game as good as it is. He discovered Murmler out of bounds. He's discovered almost every major trick in the any percent route, and most of the tricks in other categories. So without his labbing and his glitch hunting, I would not be here right now. Oh, that was a nice save. I'd also like to thank Tedious, who's probably in chat right now. He's helped me a lot with glitch hunting for several of the other categories, and he's also a really good player. Very supportive community member as well. And just the general TOS community at whole. Thank you guys for being so supportive on this journey through our very silly but very fun speed game. As far as speed games go, there's a lot of reasons why I like this game, and especially because this is an amazing speed game to start out on if you've never speedran before, because there are a lot of the strats that I do look very hard, and some of them are, but there's a lot of variation of strategies. So for example, some of the barrels, the really tricky barrel jumps I did in Jellyfish 1 can be skipped for some slower strats that are much more consistent. So if you are at all interested in this game and what it has to offer, go to speedrun.com/SBTOS. That's SBTOS. And there is a video tutorial guide for the any percent category. I've tried to make it as easy as possible for people to get into this game. And you can also find a link to a Discord group as well, and there's a bunch of people in there. Sometimes we do races and stuff. Okay, so now that we've done the trick, Patrick has that exclamation part above his head, so now we can go to the final boss. doing that, since somebody asked, doing that trick saves about a half an hour to like 50 minutes. Well, yeah, about a half an hour, because we skip a lot. We skip a boss and three of the hardest and longest levels in the other categories. So it's at least 30 minutes. And it's interesting as well, because if you want to, you can actually use the Out of Bounds and Santa to do the same thing, because it triggers the same glitch. So that's kind of cool. No pun intended. So this is the final boss. These rooftop segments are essentially auto-scrollers. And what I'm going to be looking to do, again, another big theme of this is optimizing robot kills when there's fights going on, and maintaining my buff power-up. So I'm going to be getting a buff power-up when I enter the core of Roboplankton. And I'm going to be intending to keep that until the third rooftop phase. And you'll see why in a sec. Or in a little bit. So I'm going to hit that guy's hand, and then he's going to get Slackjaw, and then I'm going to enter his core. Yeah, I don't really understand how that sequence of getting inside works, but I'm not going to question it. They were probably running out of ideas. So these core phases, I'm trying to destroy 3 generators, and then attack the heart. And we're going to be doing this a total of 3 times. There's the first phase. Please don't hit me. There we go. Okay, so we successfully maintained buff out of that first phase. So that's really good. This means that our next combat sequence is going to be a lot faster, because we have access to our ridiculously broken spin move. Play it safe there. You can actually beat that Steam cycle, but there's no point because it's an auto-scroller up until this fight. Gonna wait for these guys to spawn in. Yeah, and you can just see how the propeller blade just rips through enemies. I don't understand, like, I don't know how much testing went into this, but I don't think there was enough. Okay, so that can be a little scary. Those geysers can actually take your sponge buff away from you if you're not careful. So gonna wait for another wave. Gonna lure him over in the middle, just a little bit easier there, and then gonna make him get tired, and then we're gonna go back inside the core. So now, in these 2 phases, I'm actually gonna start going behind me, because there's a generator right behind me. And I'm gonna go to this one to the right. There's actually a hammer bot over there, and if you're not careful, he can actually clip you through the floor and just instantly, like, murder your run. It's really bad. Oh, so the spinner finished it off for me. Nice of him. So that's the second core phase. It wouldn't have been a big deal to lose buff, after destroying the heart there, because they actually give you another sponge buff power-up, in this next fight sequence. I'll show that off. It's right in this chest, or crate over here. And then, now we can get through this fight fast as well. And it actually doesn't matter whether or not I lose buff at this point, because going into the final phase of the core, there's actually a trigger that forcibly removes your sponge buff power-up. And it's really dumb. We don't know why that's there. It would really speed up this fight if it were there. It might actually be there on the Wii version, which is kind of interesting. So that's kind of stupid. But anyway, so we're in the last phase. He's actually going to shoot at us 4 times instead of the previous 2. So obviously I have to focus so much more now. It's kind of ridiculous. There we go. Enter the core one last time. And then luckily they have a couple of backup things for us here. Oops. Oh man, I got the assist from the robot. That was cool. Alright, so time will be coming up soon. It's on the last puff of smoke out of the heart. And get ready. Time. Alright, there we go. That was SpongeBob's Truth or Square any percent. Yeah. So, very, very fast-paced run. Very, very fun race category as well. Like I said, if you are interested in running this game, we have a tutorial on speedrun.com/SBTOS. We also have a really supportive group on Discord, that's also on the same page. Highly suggest you pick up this game. It's a lot of fun. You can pick it up for like $5 at like your local game store. Yeah, that's all I have to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We're like 5 minutes underestimate. What time did I get? Hold on a second. Oh, geez, I got a 3013. Wow, that's really good. Considering the goofs, if I didn't have those goofs in Fry Cook, that might have been a 29. That's crazy. For context, world record is 29 minutes 39 seconds by me. So that was a very good run. I'm very pleased with how that went. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I think that will be all from me for right now, because we're behind. So make sure you guys stick around for the rest of the marathon. We've got a lot more cool runs coming up. I'm not sure what runs up next because I don't want to like butcher the pronunciation of it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. That's all I got.